Hey world, what up? We're gonna kick you here on Speak for Yourself with Mr. Marcelo Wiley. Um, man, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't care for the show Speak for Yourself anymore. Came across on my feed, so I just wanted to jump in. I haven't watched the show in a long time. It's been a minute, but I wanted to see kind of on their takes on this since LeBron racked up his fourth chip, Lakers 17 championship. Man, I really liked this show whenever it was Jason Whitlock and Mr. Colin Coward together, but is what it is. Let's kind of see how Rick Bucher and the crew kind of go along with Mr. LeBron James and the championship, and of course I'll give my take.
Gentlemen, y'all heard it. But Marcellus,
Yeah.
a lot of things were impressive when it came to LeBron winning that fourth title. What was the most impressive part of his finals run?
What was the most impressive part of LeBron's finals run? It's a good question. I mean, I can't really say one thing, but it's kind of evaluate before heading into the bubble. I mean, you had the pandemic go on. You had Avery Bradley, who was a starter on your team, a key perimeter defender who didn't make it to the bubble. You were not even favorites to win the championship. I mean, there's a lot of stuff when it comes down to it. I mean, everyone was pretty much picking either the Blazers to upset the Lakers, the Rockets, and kind of going down the path. You had a lot of ESPN writers say that the Miami Heat would take down the Lakers. The most impressive part for LeBron James's finals run was pretty much the mental capacity and how, he knows how to pretty much stay calm and everyone can just follow him. Even that Game 5 loss in the finals, rocking out the Mamba jerseys, he had almost a perfect game, 15 and 21 shooting when LeBron had that 40-point triple-double. And it was kind of like the game one of the 2018 finals with the Warriors and Cavs when LeBron had 51 points that game and should have won it, but then JR choked and pretty much threw the possession. Same thing with Markieff Morris on this, but LeBron James was very composed. He knew all the talks and the ramblings. Everyone was on the Clippers and the Bucks, you know what. And LeBron James, pretty much, he didn't talk the talk, he walked the walk.
Right.
Woo! I'm torn between two things.
Yep.
One, the fact that all dynamic duos in the NBA don't win, but LeBron's do. He figures out a way to work with Kyrie Irving, Dwayne Wade, and now Anthony Davis. He figures out. Everyone's going to say, oh, they're top players. Of course, it's easy. No, it's not so easy because I can name other duos that don't do it. But the one I'm going to land on is really how he builds a winning culture no matter where he goes, to the point where he walks around with that winning culture tool belt. And
Well, real quickly, Mr. Marcellus Wiley, I mean, LeBron James allows the franchise to be in a winning position. He'll pretty much change it from 0 to 100 real quick. No Drake. But when it comes down to LeBron James, there's going to be some toxicity. There's going to be chaos, especially his second stint coming back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. If LeBron gets pretty much all the power he needs and he's the GM and everything, he's going to trade away players. It's going to be very toxic. But whenever he joined an organization like the Miami Heat and the Lakers, they pretty much put LeBron on check. For example, when he decided to go to the Miami Heat, he wanted Eric Spoelstra to be fired. Pat Riley checked him. Eric Spoelstra actually made LeBron James play in a team system. And LeBron James didn't do everything on his own. He played in a system. He played defense. He was playing off the ball. And that was the greatest LeBron James we've ever seen in 2013. Came back to Cleveland. He had all the power. He told everyone, hey, I have 2 championships. Cleveland, you never won anything without me. Let me do everything my own. And LeBron tried to be the GM, the coach. He got David Blatt fired. He moved around all these pieces out there. He told Kevin Love, you got to fit in, not fit out. He's getting Kyrie Irving aggravated. He made a bunch of trades. And they squeaked out that championship. Kudos to him. That was the greatest championship pretty much of all time in NBA. But in 2018, when you had D Wade there with Jay Crowder, Derrick Rose, oh man, who else? Man, you had a bunch of other veterans and players on that team, but LeBron James, midway through the season, traded them all out. So that's what happens with LeBron. But he came back to Los Angeles, and an underrated great coach, Frank Vogel. Man, throughout the whole year, we never heard one word of negativity from Frank Vogel, let alone the news media never even covered him in a good way. So he was very under the radar, but he knew how to handle those personalities and team chemistry. And the team put LeBron pretty much on check the second season when he got Anthony Davis. Now, the first season, LeBron was trading the young teammates. He pretty much told the whole NBA he wants Anthony Davis. And that was a terrible first season for LeBron on, people looking at him. He was amazing the first couple of games, being 20-14 and fourth in the West. But after that groin injury and pretty much he wanted to trade his whole teammates, a lot of chaos and anarchy. Same thing happened. But whenever Anthony Davis came back, or he was traded and he was on the team, LeBron James was put on check because AD had 1 year left this one season, and he would be a free agent. And LeBron had to get this done with. He had to get this championship done.
Just starts to go to work no matter where he lands, including in Cleveland when he's forced to play for Cleveland, his hometown team, because he's drafted there. And he drags them to the finals. No chance of winning, but drags them to the finals with that tool belt. Then, obviously, we see the Miami situation. That was just a guy's like, look, I'm not going to go down in history as not a winner. I know how great I am, and we saw the results. But then he goes back to Cleveland because he knows he owes his hometown something. And once again, finally hits pay dirt and becomes a champion. But what he did with the Lakers, people forget the Lakers had the worst win percentage the 6 years prior to LeBron arriving in the NBA, tied with the New York Knicks in terms of futility. And what happened?
Oh, man, the LA Lakers for the past 5 seasons have been atrocious. Ever since 2013 when Dwight Howard got traded to them and it was Meta World Peace, you had Kobe, Pau Gasol, Steve Nash, and Dwight Howard. Everyone had the LA Lakers as a top 3 team in the West. They were the most talented team in the Western Conference alongside the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then you had the San Antonio Spurs, who were favorites to come out of the West. And everyone was wanting to see a Lakers Heat finals. Most of us pretty much knew that would not be the case because we expected in 2013 it would either be the Thunder or the Spurs when it came down to it. But, I mean, with 2013, again, with the LA Lakers, you had Dwight Howard, you had Kobe Bryant. That experiment did not work out. Ever since that, Kobe pretty much tore his Achilles. He was out for a season or two. He came back for like 11 or 17 games one season. And, no other superstar wanted to play with Mr. Kobe Bryant. He was done with. He was done. He was getting older in age. He would never win another championship. 2013 was his last dance if you were to make that at all. But it's sad to see. They threw Kobe Bryant a $50 million contract for 2 years, his last 2 seasons. And pretty much he was playing with the Jordan Clarksons out there. A bunch of young cats, Ryan Kellys. He had a bunch of other bums out there. But whenever LeBron James took over, the Lakers were in a pretty good spot with the young cats. You had Luke Walton as the coach. You had Lonzo Ball with Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. A good young core. And they were even 8th seed at one point in the 2018 NBA season. I think 30, 40 games in, they were the 8th seed, but Lonzo Ball got hurt. But they were in a good trend. But when LeBron James actually decided to go to the Lakers, he had to blow up that whole team, the coach, the franchise, get him traded, bring in Anthony Davis, and it was a guaranteed championship, at least on my perspective, not on everyone else's. But it is what it is.
LeBron gets here, suffers his first major injury, and they don't make the playoffs. So that momentum of that losing culture that came out of nowhere, the Los Angeles Lakers, second all-time in championships to the Boston Celtics, stuck at 16 in Lakerland, that's how they feel, and they're not making the playoffs. Not only not making the playoffs, they're the worst team outside the Knicks. And then LeBron comes, and then he falters. But then LeBron does what he does best. He finds his Robin and says, let's go to work. Building that winning culture again, and not only making the playoffs, you win the championship. 6 years of futility, a 7th year where you can't even go out there and finish the season. You're getting old, you not make the playoffs, and then the next year, boom, here we go again. Rub the genie by.
Now, when LeBron was a free agent in 2018, I know a lot of cats wanted him to go to the Philadelphia 76ers. Some of them said to go to the San Antonio Spurs and pair with Kawhi Leonard and play with Popovich. On my position, man, if he wanted to really win the 2019 championship, immediately joining a team, I thought it would have been the Houston Rockets with CP3 and James Harden. That would have been a crazy big three. But I knew if he wanted to actually just go to a franchise and start things from scratch himself and build it up, I thought what he did with LA was a great decision, great move. Looking at it, I thought it'd been better if he would have to join and do that to the New York Knicks. Now the Lakers have, always been a franchise of winning, yada yada yada. But I think if he would have done that with the New York Knicks, he could have easily gone in his first season, 2019, fired the coach, trade away all the young cats, and build everything down up. It would have been acceptable because that's a toxic franchise, and LeBron can do what he wants. And if he would have won a championship with the New York Knicks, wow.
Championship. That, to me, is the most impressive.
I don't even know where to start. But let me piggyback on something you said, and let's dive a little deeper into it.
Okay.
So many people talk about LeBron's on-the-court attributes, LeBron's on-the-court ability. 6'8", 270 pounds, freakazoid. Bump all that. Let's talk about the humility. That, to me, is my first lap of most impressive. Dynamic duos. Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Dynamic duo. Yeah. Did they make it to the finals? Nah, they didn't. PG and Kawhi. That is a...
Listen, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, there's no way I knew they were going to get to the finals. Now, they can get hot at times, and they can be one of the scariest teams in the NBA, the scariest duos. But then also they can be one of the coldest teams. Terrible shooting nights, terrible IQ. They can be one of the worst. So I knew based on that, you're not going to get out of the Western Conference and let alone win a championship. I think James Harden's in the point of his career to where he may have to, if he wants to win a championship, I think he's probably going to have to move down to a second option, maybe even leave the Houston Rockets. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, probably give him one more season.
A dynamic
I didn't want to
duo.
bring up names.
They didn't go very far though, did they?
No.
You got Russ and PG when they was with the Thunder. Dynamic duo. You got CP3 and Harden. You have dynamic duos. But LeBron is not only talented, he's talented and humble. You got guys where LeBron let AD make that shot against the Nuggets.
Okay.
Let AD make the shot. We were building beef. LeBron should have took it. He should. But no, he's not worried about that. That, to me, was his first most impressive thing.
Well, LeBron's a different type of beast. Anthony Davis wants that moment. He wants those shots. LeBron James, I don't know why in his career, but he just does not like taking last-minute shots. Now, if you ever looked at all of LeBron's game winners or buzzer beaters, if the game is tied, LeBron James will easily, and he'll want to take the last shot if the game's tied. You know why? Because there's no pressure. If he misses the shot, that's fine. We go into overtime. But if the Lakers or whatever team he's on, if they're down by 1 or 2, you see the palms get a little sweaty. LeBron James makes the quote-unquote right pass or right play, and he just doesn't like taking those shots. Now, the time he has made those shots was in 2009, the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We all know that miracle fadeaway three-pointer when LeBron hit it. They were down 1 or down 2, but there was 1 second left on the clock. He had to heave it up. For example, when he was in the Miami Heat in 2013, I believe, Game 1 against the Pacers in the first round, 1 second left, they're down by 1. LeBron pretty much caught the ball, drove in for a layup. And besides from that, he may have one other game winner in the playoffs that he was down 1 or 2. I'm not really sure of. I know, in 2018, when he started making game winners in the playoffs, everyone was claiming him super clutch, which he was being. He was in his bag offensively. That was the greatest offense we've ever seen from LeBron James in his career in 2018 playoffs. But those game winners against Toronto and let alone the Indiana Pacers, the game was tied. So LeBron was fine taking those shots. No knock to him, but that's just kind of the difference from him and AD game-wise.
But then the mental resilience. You said you got to win 2 games. Marcellus has said it a ton, and it's so true. You got to win a game on the court. You got to win a game between the ears. You are sequestered in a bubble for 3 months and change. Players got distracted now. Houston Rockets. They let something without a heartbeat beat them. Daniel House Jr. gets distracted. Suspended, quarantine. Clippers, Lou Will. Maybe it was just getting wings, maybe it wasn't. But he wasn't smart enough to calculate the optics of the thing. Another delay. Giannis, Milwaukee Bucks, dominant team, best record 2 years collectively. Dominant team, but they don't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But then you have LeBron James. His ability...
Real quick, with the Bucks and the Clippers, those are both 2 teams that they need home court. They need fans. They need to feed off the fans. the energy, the crowd, the momentum, the energy, the vibes. And especially for the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, ever since they got to the bubble, they were not the team that they were defensively, let alone how they gelled. Now, maybe they lost momentum based on they haven't played in 5 months, but I think it was more based on the fans. And we saw from Paul George as well for the Clippers. He even stated, without having the fans and the crowd and the energy, that's why he was shooting bad. I could just, based off their body language. But if you're trying to be a championship team, you got to win at all costs. You got to be adaptable. And LeBron James has been to his 9 NBA Finals. This is his 10th. So he could handle these type of adaptations.
Marcellus to galvanize those around him. Alex Caruso, yes, he missed his sister's wedding. You can watch that on DVD. But everybody about to watch you as a champion for the rest of time.
All right, let's hear Mr. Rick Beaker.
Is almost 36 years old, just a couple months away from being 36 years old. And the league is at a point where it is the youngest that it has ever been. And you know what we say? It's a young man's game. And yet, as I watched LeBron James.
Yeah, and that's crazy. The Lakers had the oldest team in the NBA. And that's what I was saying before. You need veterans. Dwight Howard, Rondo, Danny Green. Those are great veterans to add on to the team. Now, a lot of people were hating on re-signing Rondo and bringing him back in the playoffs, and people were hating on the Dwight Howard signing. Listen, I can care less what people will say. I know those were great signings. If you put them in championship teams and championship aspirations, you'll get the best out of them. I mean, if you put Rondo to the Pelicans or the Bulls back in 3 years ago, and Dwight Howard to the Hornets, the Hawks, Wizards, I mean, of course, they're not going to look the best as they're going to be because they're not in the championship contending team. It doesn't make sense. These guys are late in their careers. They need to be playing for championships. That's how you exceed in your role.
Play, I never saw that. And keep in mind, we're talking about not just a normal season, but where we had a 4-month shutdown and he had to restart those engines. And I know for you, Acho, that 36 is some foreign land where primary colored suits do not grow, and it's just a place to fear. But Marcellus,
yes, sir.
You know, as you get closer to 40, the body changes, and the ability to get it into its into its necessary state to compete is a.
These guys are such children, man. This is why I stopped watching this show. Gosh.
A huge challenge.
Yes.
And he answered that, and he not only
Man, I'm probably going to stop it on here.